That's
You
a
grooving?
banging intro. That's a banging intro sequence, isn't it? Banging, as they say back home in the UK.
Thanks again, Zach Morris, for the hot intros.
And you were
And
great in Saved by the Bell.
yes, and thank
No,
you.
no,
And
I think it
welcome to
was.
the BeerPad. You are watching our last of 3 installments of the things we're looking forward to in 2023. We've went over TV shows, we've went over movies, and today it's all about the games. I'm Raymond. I'm not supposed to intro myself, but I did it anyway.
And I'm not Raymond.
He is not. He is Marcus, my excellent friend, co-host, co-captain, and role model.
Oh, Jesus, dude, you fucked. Yes, look, first of all, that intro sequence, I mean, it reminds me of peak Fuji's.
Oh.
I expect to hear Lauryn Hill's beautiful voice, just dropping a rhyme in there. After that setup, I mean, that is just a beautiful intro sequence. Intro theme tune. I am just in awe of that. I mean, obviously we've got, they're all great, but I mean, that one is just that's my vibe, man. That's 90s Marcus sitting in a bar with his mates, sipping a beer. That comes on, and it's like, yeah, that's a toe tapper right now.
Whatever happened to the Fujis? Did they just implode and hate each other now, or?
No, I don't think they hate each other. I mean, obviously, Lauryn Hill had that unfortunate issue of being arrested for tax evasion, and I think she got sent to jail, which is, no surprise, because let's face it, if they're going to send somebody to jail for tax evasion, they're going to pick on a black woman in America. I mean, when there are so many others, Trump, who should be in jail for tax evasion. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm just talking about tax evasion. So, yes, there's a whole bunch of them who should be in jail, tax evasion, all their money seized. But no, they picked on Lauryn Hill because she was a woman of color.
And Wesley Snipes as well.
Wesley Snipes as well, yes. It just blows my mind at times. But then it also doesn't blow my mind because, America.
And this is why we'll be talking about all month for Black History Month. No, just kidding. We are talking about games, the 10 games we're looking forward to the most in 2023.
How many games have you got then? Because I've only got
5. I got 5.
I've only got 4.
Okay, and
all right, I'm gonna have to add one then, aren't I?
Yes, on the
fly.
All
right, yeah. All right, on the fly, got one.
Nice. The people that know us know that we have a lot of overlap in movies and TV, but our tastes in games are very different. So this will be a fun one. Who wants to go first?
I think you should go first, seeing as it's beauty before age.
Sounds good. So my first pick, and this is kind of cheating a little bit because I don't know for sure that this game will be coming out in 2023. I am like 90% sure that early access will be coming out for this game. And that game is Hades 2 from the fine folks at Supergiant Games. I'm such a big fan of this studio. They specialize in roguelike games. They kick things off with Bastion and Transistor, but I think they really stepped it up with Hades. Like the gameplay, always fun for me, always tight and Supergiant fun. But the storytelling, I think they took to a new level with Hades, and I can't wait to see what they do in Hades 2. One of the people that is in the studio is a former game journalist, Greg Kasavin, who was at GameSpot for a long time. And I'm so thrilled for his success at Supergiant because he's a good guy and he's making excellent games. And he just seems so much happier at Supergiant than he ever was at GameSpot. So,
and most people, when it comes to stepping out of working in the games media, I mean, you miss the free games, you miss the camaraderie, but you don't miss the crappy money.
Yeah, that's
and fair. It's nicer to make something than to have to
judge and critique.
Zactamundo, and tear down. Although I don't know, I mean, a good critic is somebody who constructively destroys a game, unless the game's really shit. Connect Star Wars, for example.
Oh, Superman 64. That one I still have nightmares about.
Yeah, there's more than a few. So sorry, please carry on.
Carlos, the game is not Hades 2, Satan Boogaloo. It's funny, we were talking about Adolfo Shabadoo Quinones today.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, sir. He was
Break-In, man. Oh my God, Break-In. Look, we are literally gonna go off on a tangent because Break-In was one of my favorite movies as a teenager.
One or two, or both?
Break-In 1. Break-In 2 was horrible. Of course, in Britain, it wasn't called Break-In. It was called Breakdance the Movie.
Oh, I did not know that.
This will terrify you out there, but back in the early 80s, I used to be a b-boy. I used to breakdance. Didn't say I was any good, but I used to breakdance with some friends. We had the Ghetto Blaster, and we watched Beat Street, and we watched Crush Groove, and obviously Break-In, and whole slew of them. So yes, so when he passed, it was very, very sad because he was just awesome. But we mustn't digress today. So I'm actually going to talk to you about Hades 2 because I loved Hades 1.
Yeah.
I also loved Bastion.
Absolutely.
Transistor kind of skipped me by. It wasn't really something that it didn't hook into me the way Bastion did, to be honest, because Bastion was beautiful and brilliant, and I finished it. Hades, love to say I finished it, but I didn't. Because I got kind of bored of the whole roguelike thing over and over and over. Also, just reborn. But for the price, it gave me a lot of enjoyment.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got next with Hades 2. So good choice. Please carry on.
It's funny that you mentioned price because what are they like $20 when they first come out or $25?
Yeah, I think so. They were about between $20 and $25, and well worth it. Worth it.
You get dozens of hours of entertainment. So for the cost per hour, I think it's tremendous value. And they go on sale after a while. I remember I saw Bastion marked down for like $4 or something, and I'm like, if you haven't played.
That's an absolute steal because especially now, it will run on almost any modern PC.
Yeah,
if you have a laptop, I'm sure you could run Bastion on it. It doesn't even have to be a gaming laptop. That's so. That game is what 5, 6, 7 years old. Doesn't time fly? Aren't we old? Yeah.
And the requirements weren't heavy when it was new either. So these are like isometric to maybe 2.5D if you want to say that. But to me, it's isometric 2D. So the technical requirements are pretty low. It's available pretty much on every platform. I like it on Switch just because I can bring it with me wherever. And I'll probably play Hades 2 for early access, though. I got to do it on Steam just for the early access. That's how much I'm looking forward to it.
No, it's the beauty of having a gaming PC, my friend.
Yes. Or a Steam Deck. I've not getting the Steam Deck yet. I should do that.
If I win the lottery tonight, I'm going to get myself one of those fancy desks, be Steam Decks. But until then, I'm kind of
Yeah.
So
let us start with your pick, sir. What do you got for me?
My pick. My first pick is actually a blast from the past.
Ooh.
It is a modern day Daikatana.
Oh,
it is a game that was announced 300 years ago and a sequel. And it was famous. Both the sequel, the original and the sequel were famous for absolutely baller trailers. And I'm talking about Dead Island 2. And this game might actually hit this year, which is Thunderbolts and Lightning. Very, very frightening and exciting. Because Dead Island wasn't a great game, but it was a very good zombie game. In a lot of in a lot of ways, the whole trapped on an island and you're in a hotel, a resort rather, and you have to go from section to section and clear out the zombies and bloody blue. And it was fun. A lot of fun. It was never up for Game of the Year or anything like that, I don't think. But obviously, it had this amazing trailer that was incredible. And then they topped that with the trailer for Dead Island 2 and the premise that, it's come to LA.
Right.
So I just want to, I'm curious. I want to see it. I want to play it. I'm hoping it's, if it's as much fun as the first one, I'm gonna be happy as a zombie in a kindergarten for a very long time. Yeah, so Dead Island 2, Blast from the Past.
Who published the first one? I forgot who the publisher was, but they did some unique marketing for the game. And as you said, I don't think it was up for any Game of the Year awards, but I loved the tone of the marketing. I don't know if it was true to the studio's vision, but it was a game that didn't take itself too seriously and was just about pure fun in many ways.
Deep Silver did.
Deep Silver, that's right.
Don't you remember all the Deep Silver parties we went to at E3 in the teens?
And the hip hop
come on. I mean, Saints Row.
Yes,
they obviously had to pick they had Saints Row, and Aubrey was the PR guru, and yes, we had. Oh God, I mean, I've got an excuse. I'm on drugs to help me lose my memory. What's yours? Because yes, the Deep Silver parties were always so much fun, and it was always great to work with those guys and girls. So yes, Deep Silver, and they just did so much. They did so much fun stuff. I mean,
they really did.
Techland and Deep Silver. So let's see, what did and obviously they're now part of Embracer Group, aren't they? Because Embracer Group has everything now.
They're going to own everything eventually. So
yeah. So anywho, but yeah, I'm good. What's next for you?
The next game on my list combines two of my favorite things, video games and pro wrestling. It is WrestleQuest. This is a small developer game. The studio is called Megacat Studios. These guys, they specialize in Genesis and NES games that are made in the last decade or so. This is like a 2D RPG where you play an up-and-coming wrestler trying to make it in the pro wrestling world. But they got the character rights to use Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake Roberts, Macho Man Randy Savage, the Road Warriors. So you have all
70s
these
and 80s iconic wrestlers.
Absolutely.
So if this is a Genesis game, is it emulator or is it something that's coming to the Switch?
This is going to be on every platform, but I mean their style is in that 2D, like 8-bit or 16-bit. That's what they specialize in.
Right.
This is the first game I know from them that will be on every platform. So it'll be on all the consoles and PC as well. And it's a very classic RPG. There's a lot of leveling up. You level up, learn different moves to use in the matches. You have different ring gear that gives you power-ups instead of getting swords and armor and accessories and all that. You get different trunks, different boots, things like that. Carlos asks, no AEW Fight Forever? I am not allowed to say what I know. For reasons that Carlos. I had a good friend work on that game, a few friends actually, and I rather not talk about it at this time. So,
the intrigue is palpable. It's like something from M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
No, because this will actually be a surprise. So yeah, WrestleQuest. It's old school RPG combined with pro wrestling. Totally up my alley. Can't wait for it. And I love that I started with two games that are being developed by smaller studios. So I love indie games.
Yeah, and I turn out to be a big corporate whore that I am.
That is not true.
Right,
were you into wrestling at all growing up?
No.
Okay.
That whole thing missed me. Again, kid of the 70s. I mean, my born in 1970, so I got through the 80s, and then by the wrestling started to come over here or back to the UK, I think in the early to mid 80s. But it kind of skipped me by, right up there with Transformers and a lot of other things. They just totally passed me by, and I don't feel. It's funny. The only thing I've enjoyed about wrestling is because we had our own version of wrestling, and it was literally Saturday morning TV, where it would be on like at 11 or 12 noon on a Saturday. And it was, the scaled down British version of what became WWE.
Right.
Where we had in particular, we had two wrestlers called Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. So you should look those two up. That it's interesting. One was the hero and one was the heel. But anyway, I kind of grew up watching that from the start of the late 70s, and I was it never really got hold of me. And I've tried to play wrestling games, but I have no interest in them. I really don't, and it's not to denigrate the art form or the entertainment form.
It's just not for you.
It's just not my cup of American style sports entertainment.
Right. Brandon says wrestling is serious business. It is.
No, he says wrestling. That's wrestling.
And come
on, y'all. That's some wrestling right there.
Wrestling games have really gone downhill. I mean, SmackDown versus Raw 2007, 2008 were really the pinnacle, because I wrote for those games. And so,
which means if you want to make a really good wrestling game out there now, you need to hire this man to write for you. So there you go. That's the success. That's the way you can succeed.
Zing.
Ding dong.
Now, moving on from WrestleQuest, we got Marcus's next pick, which is
Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Yes.
Because the corporate whoring that is me continues. And look, I got nothing against the indie games. I just like to be surprised when the indie games come out. I'm not sure if Hades 2 counts as an indie game anymore after the success of Hades Part 1. Yeah. But yes, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I mean, it's the return of Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Rocksteady's back in the DC verse. And Rocksteady have done some amazing stuff. This game has often been delayed. Yep. But my understanding is that it's predominantly like The Division in a lot of ways, where it is multiplayer, it is drop-in, drop-out co-op, but you can set your own teams up, and there's a lot of cool missions in there. And the whole idea of the Justice League, who are, they're impossible to beat, but to have this legion of psychos in Suicide Squad. And I'm hoping this is more James Gunn's Suicide Squad as opposed to David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
I really hope so.
Yeah, the absolute batshit version. It tickles my interest bone, my funny bone. We haven't seen a huge amount of it beyond the announcement. They've dropped a couple of trailers, but we are looking apparently for this sort of like early spring or late spring, early summer. But it's interesting. I love me a good superhero game, as we've talked about. These
yes,
things, just the fact that they are improving in quality, which is always great. And I've got faith in Rocksteady. I mean, let's face it, they took Batman and delivered what is probably the greatest superhero game of all time, in my opinion, better than Superman N64. Batman Arkham Asylum, because that game was such a surprise. The game was so beautiful. It was so Batman. And I actually feel the sequels denigrated the legacy of the original. And we've had, because we had Gotham City. I was at Gotham Knight or Arkham Knight or Arkham City. Batman Arkham Origins. I mean, look, we had four sequels or three sequels, and I know they try to go bigger and bigger every time. But the beauty of Arkham Asylum to me was its claustrophobia.
Right.
And you were sneaking around those pipes, and you could drop down and pull people up and tie them up and take them down, blah blah blah. And that is something that you could still do in the sequels, but it was so unwieldy, especially when you came to the final one. And to me, I know that's not something I'm going to get with Kill the Justice League, but Suicide Squad is a totally different set of characters.
Yeah.
And being able to mess around with those guys in a more open environment is going to be very, very exciting. But yeah, I just thought that nobody has done a decent follow-up to Arkham Asylum as of this time. But yeah, it's Rocksteady, dude. I mean,
yeah,
they have so much goodwill in the bank, and they've been working on this for so long. I just hope it delivers.
And Brandon agrees with you. He says, concur. Level design in Asylum was superior to the sequels.
I think Brandon is a very, very smart individual.
Yes, he is a smart guy. I'm looking forward to this one greatly too, partially because I was disappointed, but I didn't think it was a bad game. Gotham Knights. Nightwing is my favorite comic book character ever. So I was super looking forward to that one. And as you know, there were some issues with the game in terms of being repetitive, not enough character differentiation, those kinds of things. I know you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Because in full transparency, that is a game that I actually consulted on over a period of 3 years. Individual pockets of time within the 3 years.
Right.
And sometimes they just don't fucking listen to the consultant, do they?
No.
Hey, so there you go. Hey, I did my thing. I made my suggestions. I cashed my check.
Yeah.
I can sit there and look. I understand it's always tough for a development team when you have a image in your head and the direction that you want to execute.
Right.
And then you have some know-it-all git with a fantastic accent turn up and say some things. But no, it's tough. You want to see it through. You want to see your vision through. It's just, unfortunately, I don't think that vision was one that really sort of hit the small screen, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, Gotham Knights turned out to be as good as the TV show.
Oh no, come on. It was better than that, man. Come on.
Was it though?
As I was playing Gotham Knights, there were more than a few times where I couldn't help but think, what if Rocksteady made this game instead? And thinking about the directions they would have taken it. But that you could play a million what ifs, and looking through the retroscope, you can do whatever. So
I think that Rocksteady have moved on from that Arkhamverse, and deservedly so. So I want to see what they do in this big, wide open environment.
Yeah, and plus the tone totally different because these are not good people. The Suicide Squad.
Some might say Batman's not good people. So yes, you're right. It's and I hope that it's an M-rated game. I really do.
Oh, I
screw this teen shit. I hope that it's M-rated, and I hope there's swears in it, and I hope the violence is cartoony and over the top, and particularly gory, a la, James Gunn's most recent vision of said Justice League.
It never occurred to me that it would not be M-rated, but now I'm scared that it might be. Now that you mentioned it, I really hope not. Warner's don't do that, please.
All right, what's your next one, my friend?
All right, going down the list, we're going to big publishers. This game came out 12 days ago for Nintendo Switch. It is Fire Emblem Engage. This is a tactical RPG, my favorite genre or subgenre of RPGs. They tried to make it more accessible than the previous Fire Emblem games, which from all accounts, I understand that they did. So, but it still has a lot of the depth and flexibility in terms of character development. And you can spend all the time you want thinking about all the moves you want to make in your little grid there. So that's totally in my wheelhouse. I do have some concerns. A few people have said to me that the writing is not as good as the proper Fire Emblem games. The stories aren't as good. There are some romance angles that you could participate in that feel contrived. And I don't know, the story in Fire Emblem is such a big part of it that I don't know if I will be happy with gameplay alone. but still, I want to see it through. It's a really good series. It's a tactical RPG, and it's very Japanese, which they're still my favorite games out there. Japanese RPGs. Fire Emblem Engage, and I just want to keep saying Fire Emblem Engage.
Engage.
Yes.
And did you see my eyes didn't glass over?
No.
There you go. I'm impressed with me.
All
right, so I'm going to go on a little bit of sort of like left field now, because this is my hit and hope, because obviously I came in with one less than you, and it is another pop culture movie to video game. And I have seen bits of this, but I haven't seen a lot of it. But it's RoboCop Rogue City.
Oh,
because RoboCop, one of my favorite games of all time on the Sega Genesis, in particular, RoboCop v Terminator, one of the greatest, most violent 16-bit shooters you could ever wish to play. And I mean, that is a game that somebody needs to figure out the license for and remake. I mean, I've cried for its remake year after year. Or not even its remake. I mean, you can play it on emulators. It's just really tough to play. Spawned a comic book series that was really quite good, quite entertaining. Anyway, it was a very interesting take on the RoboCop and Terminator series. But yeah, and look, when I'm talking about RoboCop, I'm talking about Peter Weller, Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop 1, and to a lesser extent, RoboCop 2. I mean, RoboCop 1, OG, mid-80s, Paul Verhoeven at his absolute brilliantest. Political satire, violent, sweary as hell. I think I was 16 or 17 when I watched it. That's when it came out in the UK. One of my favorite films of all time. RoboCop 2 I enjoyed, but not as much. RoboCop 3 was less said the better. The RoboCop TV series that we saw were horrible. And then there was the RoboCop reboot from several years ago, which I knew was going to be shit the minute it was they moved it to PG, because RoboCop has to be a hard R. And unfortunately, it was just a clinker. It was a total Klingon hanging on the ass hairs of movie remakes. And it was ironically the same summer that the remake of Total Recall hit.
Right.
And that was which was also moved from R-rated to PG, because, Hollywood went through that real period of just stupid shit. But yes, I'm just throwing this out there now. This was my on the fly. This was me scrolling down the list. This is what jumped out. I mean, there's several that jumped out, but this is predominantly on my love of the IP. I still feel that it's a woefully under explored IP in the video game universe.
Absolutely.
I think RoboCop could stand the test of time as a proper movie. I think there were some interesting things in the last reboot that could have really be fully explored because it wasn't a hard R. I mean, one of the issues I had with the reboot was that it didn't acknowledge the original. It didn't have to be a reboot. It could have been a continuation. There were plenty of little neat ways where you could have just honored the OG RoboCop and got that going in there instead of a full-on reboot. So yeah, that's mine. I hope it does well. I hope it's awesome. I'm seeing it as sometime in June, which is it's quite a quiet month, but it also has one of my another one of my choices for games I'm looking forward to, along with I think one of yours. Yes. So anyway, next up for you, my friend.
There are two things I wanted to ask you about RoboCop, okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is the first one the one where it ends where, do you have a name? Yeah, Murphy. And is that okay? So I loved it up until then because it just seemed kind of cheesy and out of place. Where I don't know, it seemed kind of dopey to me.
Oh, look, I mean, you look at Verhoeven's oeuvre for the for that sort of late 80s, early 90s. You're looking at RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers. That's the holy triumvirate there. Those RoboCop, we are not that far from that society now. Starship Troopers, that's the society a certain party in this country wants us to go down. And let's face it, Total Recall, I can totally see Elon Musk as the governor of Mars in the Ronnie Cox role. So yeah, look, they weren't meant to be hugely serious films, but they were satirical. I mean, look at how the news is now. It's all shortened into little news bites, and everything has to be, you have to have your human interest stories and this, that, and the other. And it's like, oh cheesy. And it does talk about issues with the police and crime and drugs and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't meant to be Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility or I'm a Star or Amadeus. But yeah, I think it's simply a classic movie. And I think that final line of Murphy is, I'm a man, not a machine. You can basically strip away the organic, and my soul is still here. My brain is human, and while the rest of this may have been replaced with metal, I'm still a man inside. I still got that soul. I thought that was just a nice touch.
The delivery, I don't know, something just didn't sit right with me. The second point, I know you said before you didn't like wrestling, but did you see when RoboCop was in wrestling? They actually had RoboCop appear in wrestling. The Four Horsemen locked Sting in a cage. Then RoboCop walked really slowly to the cage.
I'm guessing this wasn't Peter Weller as RoboCop, was it?
No, it was just some.
It was like
actor,
yeah. Please don't. No,
I will send you this clip.
Don't you dare!
It's
I will block you on
hilariously
social media.
Flat.
Oh no! Haven't you got a choice for me? Come on, give me a choice. Come on.
I will move on to the second game I'm looking forward to the most this year, and that is Octopath Traveler 2. So the original Octopath Traveler,
that sounds like a folk band.
It will make sense. And again,
it's the second album from Octopath Traveler. Oh, we're a bunch of folk singers and we make JRPGs.
Hey, I mean, one of my favorite games last year, as you remember, is Triangle Strategy. So I don't know if this is better or worse. I mean, they like the shape-based game titles in Japan, apparently.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Rhombus Attacks.
Hey, there you go. So first game was a new series, totally took me by surprise, and I thought it was fantastic. It's a Japanese RPG, of course. The sequel, new setting and new characters, but it's the same style. You got turn-based combat, and it is called Octopath Traveler because there are 8 different characters, and you have to go through all of their paths and all through their adventures. This game has a new dynamic with night and day elements. So there are certain things that you can do or choose to do during daytime sequences, and the same for nighttime sequences. So I'm curious to see how that turns out in, if it's practically fun or if it's just a goofy gimmick. But I expect great gameplay, great turn-based combat, wonderful storytelling, and a perfect game in my wheelhouse. Brandon says Octo 2 is giving me John Grisham-esque vibes. Formula fiction. Love the first game, but 2 looks the same. Hopefully story is good. Yeah. I have high hopes for it. Obviously storytelling is such a big part of these Japanese RPGs, and sometimes they can get a little weird, and sometimes things can get lost in translation, but I do not think that'll be the case in this game. Will it be as good as the originals? I'm not sure, but I'm excited to find out. Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Octopath is February 20th, if I'm not mistaken. So we will find out very soon, if my guess is correct. So is Brandon looking that up? No, he's probably goofing around at home. Thanks, man. No.
Well, he's not your personal
I
Wikipedia,
know.
for God's sake. Give the guy a chance.
See, we need
I
a
mean, it's not
producer.
like he's working on a production, our production arm. He's going, all right, I'm searching for an hour. I'm not for the president. All right. Okay. So, my turn?
Yes, your turn.
All right. It's time for crossover. Oh, 224. There you go,
Aha.
Brandon. Good for you, Brandon.
Thank you, sir.
You're amazing, Brandon. Thank you. Doing his work for him. So let's look at the next one. And this is one I think that was on the cusp of your list as well. And it comes from a place where I'm kind of uncomfortable because of the company behind it, given a lot of controversies over the last 3 or 4 years in particular. But one hopes that they will be sold and their current CEO, I don't know, goes to fucking jail or something because he's a douche nozzle. I am talking about Diablo 4 from Blizzard. I don't want to use the Activision word. I just want to use Blizzard. Remember Blizzard when it was just Blizzard?
Yeah, it was such a lovely company and they could do no wrong. And
yeah,
now they have the Bill Cosby suite and
oh yeah, it's just horrible. It's horrible, and I hope that they if Kotick was involved or hushed up anything, he needs to pay for it, as do all the upper management in particular. And I'm hoping, honestly, I hope that the Microsoft sale goes through, despite Sony's bleating, because it would be nice to see Activision Blizzard move over. I'm not saying Microsoft is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they're certainly a lot better than Kotick and Co., in my opinion. But anyway, yes, it's Diablo 4. Every now and again, I will boot up Diablo 3 on my machine. I will probably spend a week just playing through every single character over and even though I've already done it. And I will, they released the iPad version last year, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's just this. It's designed to take our money." And I'm like, "It's a free game. I haven't spent a penny on it, and I've probably completed it with 4 different characters because I like to have fun. And yes, it is repetitive. It is a little bit of grind, but I don't really need an epic suit of armor that's all color coordinated to my favorite bits and bobs."
Ooh. And Brandon says, inclusion of the battle pass has killed Diablo 4 for me. I have over 3,000 hours in Diablo. Wow.
I mean, look, the way I look at the battle passes, it's not essential. You don't have to pay for it. I don't pay for battle passes. I don't pay for season passes. I get that game and I enjoy that game. And I don't go on, especially games like Diablo, I don't play multiplayer anyway. I don't jump in and try and team up with people. I'm perfectly happy to run through all the storylines, all the, try the different characters, figure out which one fits for me, and then complete it with that, and then go back and try a slightly different, and so on and so forth. And I get so much out of it. And let's face it, I'll probably be dead before Diablo 5 comes out. I mean, this is 4. So, I mean, I'll enjoy Diablo 4 for as long as it is, and I will enjoy it on my PC, keyboard and mouse, which is the way it should be played.
Yeah,
controversy.
I agree. Even though I played 3 on both PC and PS4.
Well, you're not going to play it on the Switch?
No.
No, but that's just that's the way I feel. I feel about this. This is this game is perfect for PC, and I know everybody translates everything to Xbox and to PlayStation and to Switch now. But I think that's all bobbins. I tell you.
Diablo reminds me of our friend Rob Smith that passed away last year, and we used to talk about Diablo 1 and 2 a lot, and he said sometimes his favorite thing was to just plop down on his PC, put his face in his chin, just click around, play Diablo 2.
Yeah.
And just lose hours. And
they've got this eminent replayability.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, that's why I'm hoping at some point we will see a return to StarCraft as well. I mean, that's something that we want to see. I mean, Blizzard, before it became this, absorbed in this horrible machine that is Activision. I mean, it had Warcraft, it had World of Warcraft. I mean,
right.
God, I'm hoping that there's a sequel to World of Warcraft at some point. Hell, I'd love a World of StarCraft, for God's sake.
StarCraft Ghost.
StarCraft Ghost. Oh my God! Do you remember the E3 StarCraft Ghost figure they had? I remember finding out how much, because I was at Vivendi at the time. I found out how much they spaffed on that that particular thing. That particular statue is a monumental waste of money, to be honest with you. But yes, StarCraft Ghost. Oof. Those are the days when we were younger and not riddled by maladies and things. So,
Marcus, can you say this guy's name?
Mackenzie Calhoun.
Hey, first try.
Well,
nice.
There you go. So I'm actually going to say I've already completed Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh.
I did a mock for it late last year.
Bang.
And so, yes, it's out. It's on Games Pass. And it's very, very enjoyable. So, yes, I would say that Hi-Fi Rush is a game that's come out of nowhere. The plan was, I think, that they were going to just announce it and then say, "Oh, it's dropping." It's from Tango, who have done the Evil Within, and it's totally outside of their framework and their comfort zone, and it's a lot of fun as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I don't think it is. So, I mean, I couldn't include something like that in my most anticipated games of the year because I completed it last year. So, I mean, that's just. But I think it's an absolute great game. And if you've got Games Pass, you should definitely download it. And I think it's available on Steam as well. But yes, it's a great game. It is really is a great, fun, silly game that's harkens back to sort of like what I like to think of peak PlayStation 2 era.
Okay.
With all its combos and bright, colorful graphics and characters that make no sense whatsoever, both in general and verbally. Yeah, it's a real blast from the past. So I think you would probably really enjoy it.
I'm excited. I will check it out because you and Mackenzie recommended it, and I trust both of your opinions. Although Mackenzie, he knows more about ham than anyone I've ever met. Encyclopedic knowledge about the different types of ham, the different curing techniques. He's the ham master. That tangent aside.
Well, there's nothing wrong with knowing one particular subject inside and out. And I mean, ham is awesome. Ham and eggs for breakfast is one of my favorite things. I mean, personally, I also prefer proper back bacon, which you can't really have in this country because it's all streaky crap. It tastes like cardboard. But yes, hey, power to the ham.
Yes,
talk it up, baby.
Now, we both have one pick left, but let's talk about games that just missed our list. I mean, you mentioned two of them that were on your list for me. Diablo and Suicide Squad just missed my list, but there is one that missed both of our lists.
And it's controversial.
Yeah. Why don't you share your thoughts on this game and why you think it missed your list?
All right.
Oh, he's getting props.
We've got to bring back this.
Oh,
if anybody
gamer time.
Oh yeah. Imagine the theme tune. All right. So the game that we are talking about, and you know what? You know why this is going to be interesting? I'm actually going to stand up for this one because I think better on my feet. And because this is a very convoluted situation with regards to this game. And now, of course, I've just made a mess everywhere, and I'm going to have to go and tidy this shit up later. But anyway, the game we're talking about is Hogwarts Legacy. And this is a game that's coming out next month from WB. And there's a huge amount of outcry for against this game, and I can understand why. Because let's face it, J.K. Rowling has gone from somebody who was the fairy godmother, if you will, of generations of readers got kids back into reading, got parents reading with them, hooked people like me back into reading. I mean, I have the Harry Potter collection. I've reread it. I used to reread it, the entire series, once a year. But unfortunately, her social media comments over the past couple of years have been downright offensive to the trans community. And so understandably, a lot of people are distancing themselves and don't believe that she should profit or any of her properties should make money. And we've seen this start to happen with the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them series. But I think that also is a declining quality with those. The first one was a lot of fun. Second one, I couldn't actually finish. And the third one, I fell asleep while watching. So there you go. And now, so we've got Hogwarts Legacy, and so many people are like, we are not going to cover this. We're not going to talk about this game because of J.K. Rowling. And I totally understand that. As somebody, however, who has worked in this industry on the publishing side, on the development side, and also on the media side, I want to share some things. People say, oh, we don't want to give J.K. Rowling any more money. Lady been paid. She's already got her fat check.
Yeah.
She's got she's got an ongoing deal with Warner Brothers, and it's a transmedia deal that covers books, movies, video games, TV series, anything they want to offshoot. And now I understand the urge to want to punish her, but she's not getting punished. She's sitting in Scotland in her castle, petting the Loch Ness Monster, wiping her ass with £100 notes, if they exist, or £50 notes, or whatever they are nowadays, and just firing off tweets at a rate that would make Donald Trump, envious. The ones who are going to get hurt if this game doesn't sell, and by all accounts, this game is a good game. The words I have heard from people who are in the know is that this could be a really, really enjoyable game for a lot of people because it does tick the boxes. I mean, none of us got to go to Hogwarts, but this is the thing that lets you drop in there. And people are looking for any reason to cancel it now. I mean, I'm not talking about the J.K. Rowling thing alone, but the fact that apparently it's set just after the Goblin Wars. And the goblins are very downtrodden in Harry Potter, in the Harry Potter franchise, or, the Hogwarts universe, if you will. And people are now saying, oh, they're comparing it to, genocides in the past. And do you really want to be somebody who's, playing a character that was, parents played a part in this huge genocidal thing and la-di-da-da. And I'm like, we're talking about a work of fucking fiction here. Slow your roll and stop trying to manufacture the controversy. The big controversy is to look at is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling and her her unhinged tweets and her attacks on a minority that deserves all our support and our protection. But also the people who need our support, the people at Avalanche who made the game,
right,
and people at WB. Because these guys, their livelihood, they're not TERFs. They're not anti-trans. I mean, maybe some of them are. I mean, maybe some of them are naughty people. You never know. Right. You get them everywhere. But at the end of the day, these are the people who are reliant on sales of a game. And people say, oh, well, everybody's already got paid because of that. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, they've had their day-to-day, their weekly, monthly salary, but they have worked very hard on this. Their bonuses depend on this.
Yeah.
Not only that, if a games company or a development team is to secure funding moving forward for a game, they're going to need something like this in the bank. They're going to need this money to keep going. They can't just keep on working on on a publisher paying their salaries for them. That's not how the game industry works. You're making a game, you're paying for it yourself. Yes, you get X amount of money up front, or over a period of time, amortization, I think they call it. Mm-hmm. You get offsets against sales, etc., etc. But I just want to make sure that people are focused on the true aspect. You're not hurting J.K. Rowling if you boycott this game. You are hurting people like yourselves who have worked very hard on this game for 5 to 6 years. And so just bear that in mind. People who have put in crunches, people who have put blood, sweat, and tears into this project. And I would say, don't let J.K. Rowling's unhinged, transphobic tweets spoil your memory of this franchise and your memory of and what you could do with this game. In fact, I would turn around and say, get out there and own it. She's not writing new Harry Potter books. She's pretty much done. She's writing whatever she writes in between stupid unhinged tweets while she's on the toilet. Take back the ownership. Go buy the game, enjoy the game, create your own trans person, create whatever you want, create your own character. And I really hope you can actually create, your own character in the game. But take back your memories, because these childhood memories that build us, they are shining. And don't become as toxic as perhaps, say, the Star Wars community has. Because the Star Wars community over the last 15 years has become so toxic in almost in J.K. Rowling mode. And I'd hate to see the Harry Potter fan community become like that. And I think that, they're doing it for the right reason, but I think they're doing the wrong thing for the right reason. And that's just my 2 cents. And yes, I am torn. I want to play this game. Especially if it's good, I want to go and experience the whole Hogwarts thing. I'm in my 50s, but that, this whole quintessential Britishness of it is something that really appeals to me. They've got a great voice cast.
Right.
And it wouldn't, if it wasn't for Joe Rowling, and I really wish she'd just get off Twitter and stop being such a hateful cow at times. I think this could have been a lot, a really fun game for a lot of people. And I'm saying, don't let her spoil your fun. And still, you can also get back at her by making sure that you do support this part of our community that is marginalized and needs so much support from us. And that's my rant off.
Very well said, sir. I do want to ask you a question and ask everyone that's watching, whether you're watching live or on the replay. I mean, where do you separate the artists from the art, or do you? I had this conversation the other last week. There's a show coming up on Vegas, a music festival, has a really stacked card. And then I saw Chris Brown's name and I'm like, I don't know if I want to buy a ticket because, he beat the crap out of Rihanna.
He's a piece of shit. I'm with you. But I mean, you said it's a festival, yeah?
Yeah.
And he's just one part of it.
Yeah.
So on that sort of thing, I would say buy the ticket and leave when he comes on.
Okay.
Because, that to me, and you got a valid point. I mean, do we enjoy House of Cards?
Right. With Spacey.
Because of what happened with Kevin Spacey. And some things are really quite tough because it's impossible to extricate the art from the artist.
Right.
But sometimes it's actually a lot easier. For example, James Woods is I mix him up with James L. Brooks. James Woods is apparently suing the Democratic Party because his career is over. Because he's a toxic right-wing arsehole. He thinks that's the Democrats' fault for getting him cancelled. No, the reason he's cancelled is that he's a dick knuckle. And it's quite easy to separate him because, honestly, there's nothing new of his that I would ever watch.
Right.
And anything he has been a part of, he's only been a smaller part anyway. So I don't, it's stuff I'm rediscovering from sort of years and years ago. But it is tough. I mean, I used to enjoy, in the mid 2000s, I used to enjoy Kid Rock music. Right. Because, when you're getting drunk, I mean, let's face it, in a different time, you get drunk, go out with the boys, and that'll be playing. And, Cowboy was a banging song, but he's also a dickbag. So, I wouldn't buy anything new of his. So I totally understand. It's really hard to pull away the art from the artist and separate, especially, more and more nowadays on the power of social media, where we can actually turn and say, "You're an asshole. We're not supporting you."
Right.
I think in some cases, though, the asshole is so rich, or the asshole has been so well compensated in advance anyway. This is part of a deal that you can look at that picture and say, you know what, we're going to do it, but we're also going to just take this back from you.
Right.
We're going to take this and leverage it away. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one.
So we have a few good comments here. Carlos asks, but would Chris Brown still get a portion if I bought a ticket? He would, absolutely. So, I mean, even if I left when he performed, he's still getting some of that money. When I brought up the point about Chris Brown to my friend, we were talking. He asked me, I'm like, well, come on. He's like, tell me you don't stop tapping your foot when Beat It comes on, for example. And I told him I took Michael Jackson off my iTunes long time ago, must be more than 10 years now. Because I can't hear his music and not think, well, that guy molested kids. And it just leaves a bad taste. Brandon has another great point, being the smart guy that he is. What JK did or says is not criminal. You don't like it, but she's not a criminal. Enjoying the world she created, yes, is fine versus, yeah, that's an interesting point. Like,
I'm with. I never said what she said was criminal. She's not said anything criminal. She's not broken any laws. She's expressed an opinion, which, I mean, what she's said, especially in the UK, which has way more stringent libel and slander laws and hate crime laws with regards to social media than the US. I mean, it really is much, much stronger. So she's expressed an opinion as a feminist woman. That's her position, and she's sort of like double, triple, quadruple down. It's just some of those ones have become a little more unhinged as we've gone on. So, but yeah, it is different. I mean, I think if anybody could figure out the art versus the artists question, they'd make a large amount of money, because Thriller is one of my favorite albums of all time. Bad was really good. I even like Dangerous, for God's sake. I actually went to see Michael Jackson on the Dangerous tour.
Don't forget Off the Wall. Off the Wall was
Off the Wall was I was a little bit older when a little bit too young rather for Off the Wall. I was 78, I believe, wasn't it? 79. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really tough situation. Well, if I've already bought an album, like Michael Jackson's Thriller, if I've already got that on vinyl or CD or whatever, I'm going to listen to it, because it's not like I'm contributing. I mean, plus he's also dead. I mean, it's tough. He's dead.
Should that matter? Okay, that's
well, he's not profiting directly off it. Only his poor kids are. Yeah, his estate.
He says, I think you should be able to separate the art from the artist. You can think Spacey is a piece of shit while still acknowledging that House of Cards was a good series. And then Carlos brings up this point. Where does Marcus stand on Marilyn Manson? And I think this speaks to an issue that Brandon kind of touched on. Where do you, if for someone like J.K. Rowling or Kanye, who they're just expressing opinions, we don't necessarily like them. We, as in you, Marcus, and me, Raymond, but they're not breaking laws, as Brandon said, as opposed to Chris Brown, Michael Jackson, and it looks like Marilyn Manson will be found guilty of breaking laws. I don't know. I haven't been following the case.
Well, the allegations against Marilyn Manson are very, very serious. And I mean, the big difference is I've never given two shits about Marilyn Manson. I found his music noise and nothing more. But the reaction, when he first came out and it was like, oh, he was blamed for Columbine and this, that, and the other. That was bollocks.
Right.
Can't stand that. But the accusations against him that seem to be have been proven, and there are numerous accusations against him, which makes Spacey, Marilyn Manson, Chris Brown. I mean, these are in a different section to a slightly unhinged, very rich Scottish woman writing tweets. I mean, this is the thing, right. And yeah, I mean, it does rile people up. I mean, it's a very tricky conversation to have. Kanye West, because I refuse to call him by whatever fucking name he talks about, he says right now. He says a lot of rank, evil shit
Yeah.
I mean, and people have said, "Oh, he's bipolar. Oh, he's this, that, and the other." And it's like, I'm sorry, get on your fucking meds. But what you say, and as somebody who was married to a woman of the Jewish faith, I just want to punch him in his fucking fat head just for that alone, because there's, it's just, this whole everything about him. I mean, but I also think his music's been overrated for fucking decades. People have said he's a genius. I've always thought he was a tosspot. So I would never buy a Chris Brown, a Kanye West, or a Marilyn Manson CD. But he has not done anything against the law in the US. Marilyn Manson, Kanye West tweets in the UK, if he was a UK citizen, might actually be determined as a hate crime, and he might have been arrested. So he's lucky he lives in the US. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really tough. I mean, buying this new media from these people who will directly benefit from it. But I will go back to the point that if you buy a Chris Brown album or a Marilyn Manson album or a Kanye West album or Yeezy trainers or whatever, the children in the Cambodian sweatshops who make Yeezys or made Yeezys, they're not getting any bonuses. They're not getting anything beyond their 15 cents an hour or whatever the hell it was. He's benefiting 100%. Rowling's already got X amount of money out of this. That's rolled into this bigger deal. And if you Google, the ongoing deal that was signed X amount of years ago, my concern is Avalanche Software and there are lots of good people at WB Games. Lots of people who just love making games. I want to put cool games out there. I mean, we're so easy, so quick to turn around and rail against, oh, you developer, you did this, you ruined my game, you did this, that, and the other. And it's like they don't set out to make shitty games.
Brandon says, I love The Hunt for Red October. Too bad Alec Baldwin is in it. Well, I mean, look at Glengarry Glen Ross. You have Alec Baldwin and Kevin Spacey.
Backdraft.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin. Look, is this Stephen Baldwin? Look,
it's an interesting conversation.
Alec Baldwin is a divisive character and a person.
Yes.
I mean, he is somebody, he's like Bill Maher in a lot of ways. He is somebody who leans slightly left, but says a lot and does a lot of stupid shit. The whole Rust thing is just terrifying. But I mean, what happened to when Brandon Lee got murdered?
Right. I was just going to say, I don't think Bill Maher has any manslaughter trials.
No, but I mean, what happened when Brandon Lee got murdered on the set of The Crow? Yeah. Oh, not murdered, killed. I mean, it's there are lots of things for us to sit here and and awe about. Sure. But I mean, within looking at just the Harry Potter without the whataboutisms and the equivalencies, whether they be false or true, looking at Hogwarts Legacy, the idea that not buying this game hurts Joe Rowling is pure fucking fantasy. In fact, it's as big a fantasy as Harry Potter is and the Hogwarts school is in general. Lady's already been paid, all right?
Yeah.
The ones you're hurting are the ones who are actually making the game. And I think everybody within the gaming community and the gaming's media needs to look at, if they were going to review this game, they need to review it in a fair and impartial way, but put a caveat in place to say that they either don't support or I don't think anybody would put that they don't support, the people who are targeted by Joe Rowling. Right. But it's a very tough situation. But in this instance, I would say that Hogwarts Legacy is something that could be a really good game that I would like to play. And I know that Joe Rowling is not going to profit directly from it.
Right.
And I think that it's extremely short-sighted and also, a little, I'm not going to say delusional, but a little naive. That's the word I'm looking at with regards to those who are calling for a boycott of it, to think that this is going to hurt her. She's already one of the richest women on the planet.
Right.
She doesn't need the money. She's not going to make a huge amount of money out of this. Whereas the people at Avalanche and WB Games, some of them are living paycheck to paycheck. Some of them a lot of them have families, kids,
gambling problems. No,
no. I mean, look, I'm just saying. Think about who you hurt and why you hurt.
Right, and that's really what we're saying. We're not telling you to buy or not buy this game.
Yeah.
Give it some thought, and it's an interesting conversation to have. It's an interesting mental exercise to go through either by yourself or to chat about with your friends. I had a lot of fun just talking about it now with you, Brandon, Mac, and Carlos. So it's anytime you think more, it's a good thing.
It's tough. I mean, we're talking about, like I said, a section of the community that needs to be protected and needs to be stood up for. I mean, I have acquaintances, people I've worked with in the past who have transitioned, and I support them fully because they're living their best lives now, and that's what it's all about. Yeah. But I know the irony of a 50-plus-year-old white guy standing here and saying, "Well, blah blah blah, you shouldn't, you shouldn't take a stand against this, that, and the other. You're all just that's the way it is because I'm old and white, and what I say goes." Not at all. I'm just basing this on 30-plus years working in video games. Man and boy working at the coalface, and seeing what crunches do to people, how people put their effort in, and what they put into a game, and to cancel a community effort like that for one person is very, very tough. It is very, very tough because let's face it, Joe Rowling at some point will go the way of all of us and be dust.
Sure.
Her books and the games and everything else, they'll continue to live on long after she stopped tweeting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Carlos's comment, actually, I mean, this is obviously to go off another tangent, but Fallen Order 2. Didn't like Fallen Order 1.
Oh,
I know a lot of people did. I know a lot of people were going absolutely bonkers over the game. And I can't understand why. I mean, I think it's, again, this Metroidvania kind of thing, which I'm not a fan of this Metroidvania gameplay. And if you look at the levels, the levels were, let's take exactly the same level and make it a tech level and a tree level and a mud level and a sand level and a snow level and a whatever level. And they were literally just reskinning over and over. And, how do we double the length of the gameplay? Well, we remove save points and quick travel. Let's not have any fast travel. So if you want to go here and unlock this thing, then you're going to have to go all the way over here to unlock this thing. And you can't fast travel between the two. You got to go all the way back through the same shit. And again, I will say now what I've said the last time, though, however, with regards to the Fallen Order, some of the best writing I have seen in a Star Wars video game. And at the time, this was pre-Mando. This was some of the best Star Wars writing of the last decade, in my opinion, and an excellent voice cast. Yeah. So I've got no interest in it right now. If they have tweaked and improved and perhaps moved away more from the cheap gameplay aspects that I feel did it no favors, I'm open to having a look. But if it's just more of the same, count me out.
I will buy it when it's on sale for like 50% off or something. I mean,
it gets on Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, as Carlos just confirmed, it was pre-Mando, but since then, there's been so much high quality Star Wars content that I don't necessarily need more from a game. But I would like to check it out eventually, but it is not on my most wanted list.
What we need is Knights of the Old Republic 3.
I miss old school BioWare. I
think we all miss old school BioWare. We miss a lot of old school things, but then, we're old and
it's not our time anymore. Yeah.
No, apparently we've moved out of that 16 to 48 demographic. Well, I have. I'm no longer attractive to to marketers, which I think is fucking stupid because I don't have any kids. Way more money than any 16 to 48-year-old. Thank you very much, especially anyone who's got kids. And, I got cancer, so I got time on my hands to play video games and not much else. So, what am I going to do? Going into the London Marathon? I don't think so. I'm not going to start War and Peace or anything, but I do have time to sit down and play a video game.
If you have time, any thoughts on how Gunn plans to incorporate games into the new DCU? I have no thoughts because I have no idea.
I think that because he's got this, he's been given this sort of like remit for a 10-year plan. I would like to think that he has got plans for video games. I think that anything and everything that perhaps was unannounced and was bubbling along before he came on board is now being fully reviewed and to see how he can fit in. It's this old transmedia word that we used to bandy around in the late aughts, early teens of this century. They've got a bunch of games that I'm sure they're working on, but I think we will see that Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League is probably the last of those style of games. It was just unfortunate that they walked into the shitstorm of Batgirl being cancelled and Henry Cavill, will he, won't he, and Gotham Knights all hitting in the same sort of like 3 or 4 week period. And then they took over.
Right, but those are, they're still separate licenses, and Marvel does this as well. Like the Avengers game that Square Enix released is based on the comic book license, not the MCU license. They keep those separate.
I don't know. I understand, dude. But let's face it. What Marvel's done kind of sucks. Warner Brothers keeps that shit in house. If they keep that shit in house, you can actually have true synergy across the board, and you can have, because if you're a smart head of a studio that also has a strong gaming arm, which Marvel doesn't, they shuttered Marvel games.
Yeah.
But if you have a strong gaming studio or publisher, as you do in WB Games, then you say, all right, well, we are going to have this movie hit, and we're working on this game, which is going to take the slack in between this movie and its sequel, and the content then that we are going to generate. When the sequel comes out, will tie into that other game as season pass, DLC, etc., etc. In a 10-year plan, you can do it. We're not going to see anything immediately, but I think we'll see stuff in probably the next 18 months to 2 years. They have said that the new Superman movie is 2025, as is Batman 2. And the Batman is going to be part of Elseworlds. Then the new Superman is going to be part of the DC movie universe. I've got faith. I've got faith in James Gunn.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do. The man is a fan, and he's a talented fan. There's few directors I trust to make awesome, cool stuff for nerds like us. One of them is Edgar Wright, Shaun of the Dead, the Cornetto series, and the other one is James Gunn. To have the cojones to do what you do with Suicide Squad in that first 10 minutes of his version, that took balls, and he did it. And look what he did with Guardians. I think we discussed this when we were in our movie section. Guardians came out of nowhere and fast became a lot of people's favorite, or at least top 3 Marvel movie. You gotta, sometimes you just gotta trust in him. Put your trust in these guys, and he's done enough to earn that trust.
Absolutely. And Brandon says, one last comment here. Best thing about James Gunn taking over DC is that Cavill will make Warhammer. Yes, we know how much you love the Warhammer universe, Brandon. So
I want to see an MC Hammer universe.
Hey, I still wanted the Highlander MMO. Someone was developing it.
There could be only one. Come on.
That's
I mean, that's the loneliest fucking MMO you could ever have in your life. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I'm a Highlander. No, it's like, I'm an immortal. You're an immortal. I'm blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I chop your head off. And what happens? Do you respawn? Or are you done with the game? Congratulations. You're paying $15 a month for a game. You can't play it anymore because your character died. And then when you get to one, I mean, it's literally, you're just running around this area by yourself. I mean,
there will never just be one. There will always be a new player, a new head to chop off.
There was actually a Highlander game, I think, on the Sinclair Spectrum in the mid 80s. I think it was on the Commodore 64 as well. You look it up. I think it was from Ocean. And it was just a swords and sorcery. Not swords and sorcery, just a sword fighting game. Gotcha. And wasn't that great? Unsurprisingly. But, I mean, given the tech back then, yes. There is no surprise there. All right. So, all right, Highlander, that's an interesting one. What other pop culture, and we'll do one each, and I think we should probably wrap up for the night because it's getting
absolutely.
So, what else would you like to do? Would you like to see?
Are we? How serious are we being here?
Serious.
I have a dumbass, semi-serious.
All right, give us both. Give us your dumbass and give us your semi and give us your full on.
Okay, the dumbass idea would be a Care Bears game, where based on the first Care Bears movie, where they fought an evil book, and not once did they just think to close the book and throw it away,
or burn it,
or burn it.
That's what we do in America now. Apparently, we burn books.
So Care Bears, they all shoot their different powers out of their chests. So there's all
they shoot their rainbow love all over you.
They do. The Care Bears.
Oh my god! I can feel conservative vaginas shriveling up all over America at the thought.
I just want to fight an evil book, man. But my serious thought, and I actually pitched this to a few friends at Sony, and the idea probably has not aged well, but I always wanted a Blue Beetle and Booster Gold game where it was a co-op action game with a lot of wisecracking, a lot of dumb comments between the two as they're adventuring. And I forgot, EA had a shooter that was like a co-op shooter that was kind of had an irreverent tone. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of what I want, but not really. So,
well, you should go and pitch that to Warner Brothers. Go pitch it to James Gunn.
Yeah. Well,
James Gunn and tell, because we know there's a Blue Beetle movie coming at the end.
Yeah,
of this
year. But it's not that version of Blue Beetle. It's the newer Blue Beetle, who I don't think doesn't fit in the game. Yeah, it's not the goofy B-listers that Blue and Gold were at the time.
Well, I think you still pitch it. Pitch it to James Gunn.
Okay, how about you?
For me, the one thing I would love to see is a really good Doctor Who game.
Oh,
I mean, obviously, we've talked about my love for this franchise over a couple of shows. The 60th anniversary is this year, and it's back in the hands of Russell T Davies, and it's been signed to Disney Plus as a global streaming exclusive outside of the UK, and some of that Disney Plus money is being pumped into the budget.
Hey.
So it's not exactly its Star Wars Mandalorian or Star Trek Discovery size budget, but I think they can finally put away the Reynolds rap for the Cybermen. But yeah, the budgets have increased, and we've got a great thing going on this year. And the beauty of Doctor Who is that there are so many doctors who mean so many things to so many generations, and you can actually have a game, not necessarily an MMO or anything like that. But I mean, I think it would make a great Lego game, personally, because the Lego Doctor Who TARDIS that came out was voted on everything. I actually got it and built it, and it was actually a lot of fun. It's very cool. But I also think that it could actually be a really interesting universe with a lot of continuing expanded content, etc., etc. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year after it starts to air on Disney Plus. If it's the global, I mean, obviously it's huge in the nerd community. It's referenced in the Big Bang Theory. It's got the panels are so oversubscribed at Comic-Con. The stars have gone on to breakout roles. Ironically, Karen Gillan is probably the biggest star to come out of Doctor Who since the reimagining or the reboot in 2005 with her Guardians of the Galaxy roles as Nebula. But
she'll always be Amy. She'll always be Amy to me.
Amy Pond, yes, she'll always be our little Scottish Amy Pond. But yeah, I think there's space for it, and I would love to see it. I mean, I've always had this idea for a Doctor Who game, and been gesticulating in my head for probably the last 6 or 7 years. But
this sounds like an episode we should do in the future, like 3 pop culture franchises we'd like to see in games, do like 3 each or something. And
I'm not giving away my concept for the Doctor Who game, though. I'm hoping somebody is going to say, somebody who watches this, who works in games, because we have lots of friends in games, and they'll say,
yes,
Marcus, what's your Doctor Who pitch? We can go and license it from the BBC, and we can have some fun with it. So yes, if you are working at a publisher developer and you have a lot of money, actually not a huge amount of money, and you want to hear what I think is a cool take on a Doctor Who show that would probably do very well after Disney Plus start promoting the shit out of the show come this fall, give me a call, because I'm a genius at video games, and I know how to make them, and I know what makes them sell. And I've got this plan that just lasts for a long time. So there you go.
Same for you, James Gunn. If you want to get that Blue Beetle Booster Gold game.
And if you want to hire us to consult for all your DC games, I've got lots of people I know who I've worked with in the past who are now at WE Games, who are lovely people. And I'm sure they would love to hear somebody like me has been pitching stuff to their new boss.
And we're both cheap, but not easy. Or is it the other way around? I forget.
Oh, I'm easy. I'm not cheap, my friend. I got U.S. medical bills to pay. So yes, there's no.
The cancer drugs aren't going to pay for themselves.
Absolutely, between the cancer drugs and the heart drugs, or you can vault. So yes, we need to start. This show needs to start making us some money, yo. Ray needs another Man City top, and
I need another guitar.
And Marcus needs to buy another TARDIS and enough drugs to make him last until they find a fucking cure. See, there's a game that people should be working on: the cure for cancer.
There we go.
Yes.
And with that, let us move on to our top picks for the game of 2023.
Are we still talking about that? We got off on such a tangent with all right. Yes.
I loved every second of it. So
we have one more pick. So Ray, Raymundo,
this should be.
What do you got?
This should be no surprise to anyone, but the game I'm looking forward to the most in 2023.
Final Fantasy 26.
No, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is slated for a winter release. So hopefully it's December and not January. The first chapter of this 3-part series, Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was just brilliant for me. I love the modernized gameplay that started in Crisis Core for the PSP. They took it to new levels with Remake. The story, I've come to love these characters and this story, which I didn't at the time Final Fantasy VII was released, but they did things like Crisis Core, the movie Advent Children, where they really expanded the universe. They explained a lot of things that seemed goofy and didn't make sense, partially because it was weird and partially because the original translation was not great. But I've come to love these characters, come to love this story, and I cannot wait to see where they go next. Because there's new directions. A lot of the things, not a lot, but there were a lot of small things in Remake that were different from the original. And then eventually they made it clear that this was a split branch from the original game, kind of like how in the Star Trek movie, J.J. Abrams, his Star Trek universe split from the original TV show series. So the producers, the directors have said that the second and third chapter of this remake series will have even more differences and even more changes. So I'm excited. And it's great for fans of the old games, but you don't need to have played them to enjoy this. So everything, gameplay, story, music, I want everything about this game. And hopefully it is a December release and not a January or February release, because it has that vague winter window. So let's see.
I am actually, I'm seeing October to December, just a Q4 release on that one. But I'm actually intrigued that you are not, that your list didn't include Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously June on the PlayStation 2, June 22nd, apparently. And I mean, obviously, you have such love for the Final Fantasy series and the JRPGs in general. And so I'm going to ask you, why didn't Final Fantasy 16 make your list?
I liked the newer ones, let's say from 13 on. The MMO Final Fantasies aren't really my thing. I rather play World of Warcraft if I'm going to do the MMO thing.
Don't suck me back into WoW, dude. Do not suck me back into WoW. I am not reactivating my character, which was named. Sorry, we'll talk about that tangent in a second. Please carry on.
But the other new games, I liked them, but I didn't love them in the ways that I loved, like, 4, 5, 6, eventually 7, 8, 9, and 10. After that, 12 was a personally disappointing game for me because the original director is my favorite game producer ever, but he kind of had a breakdown and could not finish the game. It was just too much pressure. There's one story that said he did not attend E3 so he could go pray for the game. Sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But
look, I mean, working in video game development, I mean, we, like I said, people belittle dev teams and belittle creators, and it's a really, really hard environment. Yeah. And, you have to give a lot of love and respect to these people because they don't want to make a shit game, as I said before.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're dealing with a venerated franchise like Final Fantasy, where the expectation is huge. I mean, for the longest time, Final Fantasy was the only reason you'd buy it, or was the main reason you buy a fucking PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because it had Final Fantasy. PS1 only had Final Fantasy. Yeah. PS2 only had Final Fantasy. So that, I remember it was a huge deal when Final Fantasy was going to come to Xbox. But, I'm before PlayStation, Final Fantasy was, Nintendo. Like I said, the first time I played it was Game Boy and Super NES.
Right.
And I actually kind of missed those because I thought they were great. Unfortunately, the gameplay hasn't evolved from those, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but to get back to your question, I'm definitely going to play 16. I'm definitely going to buy it on day one, but it's not something I'm greatly looking forward to as much as the other games that we spoke about today.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to clear that up because I mean I would have thought, it would have been on your list. So I will actually say with regards to World of Warcraft, the amount of times I've gone back to this game is ridiculous. But when I joined Vivendi back in 2005, the game had only just come out, and it was myself and Matt Ferrari who joined around the same time. There was a couple of other people who joined around the same time as well, but. Me and Ferrari fired up our accounts and created created World of Warcraft characters based on the names of editors from Future Publishing. So there are 2 characters still sitting out there. One called Wiedemann, after Greg Wiedemann, who was an excellent individual, and Fran Reyes, after the amazing Fran Reyes.
Yeah.
So yes, those were our literal the first characters we created, and we basically got them both to 60. And I don't want to go back and do that again.
No, we should do it. We should go back and we'll do IGN this time. I'm going to make a dwarf named Tal Blevins. And you can make a very pretty character named Fran Mirabella. It'll be glorious.
No.
You're done?
No. You can make a character called Deez and I'll make one called Nuts.
Okay. Who else did you guys play with when you were into WoW? You, Matt?
It was predominantly me and Matt more than anything else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we played a lot. I remember we convinced Vivendi that we both needed brand new XPS laptops to be able to demo our games, especially me because I was actually working predominantly on the PC games. So I needed to be able to run Fear on a really high-powered laptop. So we got them. And yes, first thing we did was install WoW, and then we were really pissed because nobody at Bethesda, even though it was a sister company, would give us any discount on our monthly subscription. So we were paying full whack to Bethesda because they were tight bastards back then. So they probably still are. I mean, you know, they've got all their millions and billions, but they made amazing games.
So we're just about at 90 minutes. 90,
I think we're done.
Let's go with your top pick.
Oh shit! What was my top pick? My top pick is it's from Todd Howard, and it's coming out apparently the middle of this year, maybe the end of this year. Who knows? And it is Starfield. I think this game, I mean, as somebody who loved playing Elite and like No Man's Sky, I mean, this basically promises and hopefully delivers the RPG elements and storytelling that we have loved with regards to Elder Scrolls and Fallout, minus the Fallout 76 issues, because I just don't want to, with space travel and being able to buy your own ship and build your own ship and this, that, and the other. And I'm equally looking forward to it, intimidated by it, and terrified for it. Because I think it looks amazing. I hope that it's something that's easy to get into and is a streamlined system of introduction. They don't set the bar too high. And I hope it goes back somewhat to perhaps Skyrim / Fallout New Vegas levels of storytelling, because those are absolute pinnacles for me of video games in the last 15, 20 years. I think they are some of the best story experiences, and to put that story experience in a futuristic off-world kind of thing where you can have, you know, you can have characters come with you. I mean, it's right up there with what I hoped Knights, was it the Old Republic was going to be when it first released, and it never really quite hit that. So the idea that you can have something like this, and I know, you know, there is No Man's Sky and there's Elite Dangerous, but I mean, the space travel in particular is something that's going to be very interesting how they handle it, because these games kind of live or die by that. And No Man's Sky is still quite a difficult barrier of entry. Even if you like click on the whole random play, you're indestructible, you can do this and that and the other. You've got to pick it up and punch it up. You're making your own story over having some guidelines in place. And Elite Dangerous has just always been a little bit tricky. And first time I played Elite Dangerous, I was 12 years old playing it on a BBC Model B computer in after school in our computer room at school back in the day. So yeah, I think Todd Howard is due a huge return to form. Fallout 4 was something that disappointed me after a certain amount of time. I was very hyped for it, really looked forward to it, loved the idea of Boston. It looked great, especially on obviously a higher end PC. I've still got the Pip-Boy that they sent out with a collector's edition. But I think for me, it was the more I played it, it became a retrograde step in that I didn't feel that the characters and the dialogue and the interaction that way were perhaps as good as Fallout New Vegas. So yeah, I just, you know, I'm sort of like equally, like I said, terrified, excited, nervous, whatever you want to call it, intimidated. It's going to be a vast game, and it's one that I'm either going to be playing for decades or for however long I've got left on this Dust Bowl, or one I'm going to pick up, play for 3 days and go, oh shit, it's not for me, and then go and cry into my my Todd Howard shaped pillow.
I think this is the only game on your list that I'm not interested in. As you know, I'm more of a swords and sorcery guy than a sci-fi guy, and I always preferred WoW over Elder Scrolls. I mean, they're different enough. No, I mean, they're very different in many ways, but I just like the WoW style better.
I am not. I'm actually. I came late to the Elder Scrolls. I really didn't like Oblivion, But Skyrim to me was such a amazing package, especially, I mean, and it was also fortuitous timing. When Skyrim was released, I just bought my first Alienware desktop machine that was like, woohoo, super spammed. So, and I had the big speakers going and the beautiful monitor because I was playing it on a huge, like 40-inch TV. And to have that soundtrack, especially when you do Fosroda for the first time, and you know, as you're coming up the mountain and you can hear the Dovahkiin, the soundtrack coming, that orchestral soundtrack coming through, and how they refined the combinations so that you weren't over intimidated with a bunch of keyboard presses. That on PC they actually really made good use of the controller,
right?
And it just worked so well. And so it's this confluence for me that was just so amazing. And don't get me wrong, I loved WoW, but there was space for WoW and Elder Scrolls in my life, and so that, you know, and I've tried to play ESO online. I can't get into it, much like I can't get into Fallout 76, and you know, I love Fallout. So yeah, I do get the Swords and Sorcery over sci-fi thing. I mean, I went through my Swords and Sorcery phase, but I've always gone back to sci-fi. I've always been a sci-fi kid from, you know, Doctor Who at the age of 4. And that's just the way it is for me. That's always, I mean, there's part of me that's always hoped that by now we have, you know, we would have had interstellar travel and this, that, and the other. Yeah, I mean, look, I was perhaps never a Star Trek guy, but I mean, you know, yes, we've had these amazing advances over the last 30 years. I mean, in the scope of my life, we've gone from, you know, having 3 TV channels to having any content delivered directly into your TV. And we've gone from, you know, a rotary dial-up phone to a, you know, oh, look at my dog. It's my dog.
A really powerful computer in your hand.
A powerful computer in our hands. And, you know, it's a good and it's a bad thing, in a lot of ways. But I figured if we just stop fighting with each other and stop being dicks to each other, just think what we could have achieved by now. We could have wiped out hunger. We could have wiped out climate change. We could have wiped out global debt. We could all, I mean, we literally all could have been singing Kumbaya, dancing around, you know, Hands Across America, version 2.0. You know, we could literally, I think we have it within us. And sorry to be the old guy who's like, I'm sorry, I won't live to see this, but I hope that it happens at some point, even if I'm not here. But that Gene Roddenberry view of Earth moving forward, where people have put the bullshit behind them and we all work towards a greater good that is respectful of everybody and doesn't try to marginalize anybody unless they're a total fuckknuckle, you know? And that is, you know, not like I said, not the Kumbaya thing, but I'm not religious, but I'll respect your religion. Just respect me, and I don't need to hear about it. That's the beauty of sci-fi. That's the sci-fi I want to believe in. I mean, I love Blade Runner, but that version of LA, I really don't want to be a part of. And look, I understand the Swords and Sorcery thing. I mean, Swords and Sorcery is more Harry Potter again, wizards, magicians, witches, etc., etc. I come from a country where we are steeped in that, you know. And in Wales, we have something called the Mabinogion, a Mabinogi, which is basically a book of Welsh fairy tales, if you will. And you know, there's all these myths and legends. Merlin was a Celt. He was Welsh. The stones from Stonehenge are allegedly from Wales. They were carved and blessed by the Druids and moved up to the Druids. Is again a very Welsh thing. And I know a lot of people think Celts, Scottish and Irish. Actually, kind of started in Wales, spread out from there. We're looking at the B and C teams here. A little bit of history. Anyway, so yes, I get that. I enjoy that. I mean, I've enjoyed the Swords and Sorcery down the years, but it's the sci-fi and the prospect of a better, decent society for us has always been something. Again, that's why I love Doctor Who. It's this person without a gun who tries to make things better for anybody and everybody. and tries to make sure that they are better for it, as in better people.
You're way more optimistic than I am, my friend.
Dude, I got nothing to lose.
I think we're gonna screw the planet, and
I think we already have. Yeah, you're not wrong.
So I don't know. And with that,
an hour and 40 minutes, boom, just like that. And people got a bonus Annoy Gamer in.
Yes.
I didn't even rant about the thing I wanted to rant about, which was before this, which was Ubisoft. And they're all boo-hooing. We'll save that for the next one.
Yeah.
Yes, Annoyed Gamer will return as part of the BeeRPad.
Dun, dun,
and then we'll do Annoyed Ray.
Even though you're more optimistic than I am, I don't get as annoyed as much as you do. I don't know. Because I'm easy. That's right. Remember, I'm easy.
And I'm not cheap.
Right.
Yeah. Easy and not cheap, which was actually a rejected name for this show.
Haha.
Yes.
So there you have it, guys. Those are the 10 games we're looking forward to the most in 2023. Of course, we want to hear about your picks. Drop us a line, leave a comment. Our social media is all up there. Leave a comment on Facebook,
share us. I mean, if you've been a fan of any of our works over the years, me back on the Game Trailers days, Invisible Walls, Annoyed Gamer, Ray with all his various really cool interviews, especially in the last few years. We need to get numbers up on this. I mean, it's something that we would like to do a lot more often. And for us to do it more often, we are going to need more views to get more clout, to get access to things. And especially if you're a certain sort of like age group. I know we tend to rant on and drivel on a bit, but at the end of the day, we're all of the same age group here. I mean, and this isn't a 2-minute TikTok video full of dancing and stuff. It's just a couple of guys who love gaming and pop culture, have done our entire lives, and those entire lives are almost combined to the grand old age of 100. And we are a massively underserved, ironically, for somebody, and everybody says, "Oh, you're the ones who wrecked the planet." No, we're Gen X, motherfuckers. We didn't wreck the planet. It was our parents. It was the boomers. They wrecked the planet. We were too busy out until dark, latchkey kids, popping pizza in the oven, watching Saturday morning TV before you lot had your pants around your ass, you're running the jewels, and you're streaming of the unicorns. And Manchester City was still a shit football team that yo-yoed under the leadership of Alan Ball.
This is all true. And please support the show, and we will see you next time where we are going to talk about
God knows what.
Yeah.
Well, I think the next one will actually probably be in a couple of weeks where we'll talk Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, because that comes out in 2 weeks.
I am excited.
Yes, indeed. We should indeed talk about that, and maybe talk about some games that we are actually starting to play.
Yes.
I actually did start playing Saints Row over Christmas, so the rebooted version. So maybe we talk about that as well. But yes, share us. If you got friends who are interested. I mean, if you're like I said, a fan of some of our old stuff. This is the Motherload version. I mean, we don't have the fancy videos and stuff, but I mean, look at us. We're chatting along. Will we do a books or comics from Carlos?
Books? That's pretty funny.
Look, I mean, I'll be honest with you. My book consumption hasn't dropped at all, but my book consumption has changed. I mean, obviously, I've had things like Ready Player One, Ready Player Two. I couldn't finish. Armada was such a rip off of The Last Starfighter. I mean, Ernest Cline went from great fanboy writer to total fan wankery. I'm not reading as many books as I used to. And also, I mean, I don't know if you can see over here. I mean, but this is my, that is one small section of my my graphic novel collection. Here,
very nice.
And as you can see, it's all over the shop. There's stuff here from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, various Batman, DC. I've got House of M there, the Ultimate Comics, a whole bunch of stuff. But hang on, I totally blinded myself out. But I don't buy new comics anymore. I wait until they hit in graphic novel form. and I don't even do that as much now because I've subscribed to Marvel Unlimited for a lot of my Marvel stuff, and so I read through on that one. And then with books, I mean, it's very rare that I actually read a fictional book. I mean, now I think I don't know if it's a sign of old age, but I've started reading biographies. And the other thing I really love are oral histories of the
I love those.
Love those. Behind the scenes on books, on movies, TV shows, etc., etc. So I mean, I'm currently reading one about Shaun of the Dead and how that got made, which is quite fascinating. Read one of The Sopranos, Big Bang Theory, which I'm a big fan of that series, and people will snort, oh, it's just fake geekism, blah blah blah. You know what? It's a fun, silly show, and it does where it makes me smile. So screw you.
So for my answer, real quick, I actually start a lot of books, maybe 20, 25 a year, and then I finish 2 every year. Comics, I don't read as much since I got LASIK surgery because I read digital exclusively. I still have a ton of graphic novels and single issues, but ever since I got LASIK, my eyes get much more tired on the iPad than they used to. So I can't read on the iPad for hours at a time anymore. Which
make the font bigger and turn on the blue lights, darling. But I mean, look, this is my current to read book that's just in here. And there's stuff in here from a while ago, including Phasma, which Captain Phasma, which is a Star Wars spin-off. But I mean, there's so many biographies of sports stars, actors. I mean, one of the ones I really enjoyed was the Andrew McCarthy
that's interesting.
autobiography. That was really quite fun. My wife got me the Matthew Perry one for Christmas, and I haven't even opened it yet because I've been, like I said, I'm reading the other one. But the iPad does make it a lot easier to get hold of stuff. And I've also been rediscovering stuff, books from my youth that I used to love and I don't have anymore because obviously I moved from one country to another. You lose almost all your possessions. And so things like the John Wyndham books, Day of the Triffids in particular, I'm reading, and then the Tripod series. That's a trilogy of books that I've managed to find online and download, which is great. So yeah, new books, it's kind of tough. Yeah, it really is quite tough to, I think the older you get, the more you crave comfort in what you used to know or what you know and what you used to experience. And so my wife, actually, she's a member of 3 different book clubs. She's reading like 2 new books a month, whereas I've been rereading. Awesome. Yeah, I've been rereading this, that, and the other. But I just don't think that. Who would be good to get on to talk about books?
Semmel. Yeah.
Paulie S. Paulie Big Book Semmel. That's our guy.
Let's get Paul in for a book show. Can you teach
just to shoot the shit?
Yeah. We'll do that. Let's do that. Let's do that for the next one. We'll figure out something to talk about. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for watching. As Marcus said, please share, please subscribe. Tie up your parents and force them to subscribe, or force your kids to subscribe, whatever the case may be. Just don't commit any crimes.
And if you've got topics you want us to cover, let us know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're old, we're lazy. We don't, we've done 9 episodes. We're running out of content.
We can always talk, and we will. We will see you next time on the BeerPad, as Marcus said last episode, for our unfiltered and uneducated thoughts on pop culture. Watch the BeerPad. See you guys next time. Thank you.